Jenna Matlin. Welcome to Christiana's Psychic Cafe. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure.
Well, it's fun to have you back. I always look forward to an opportunity to have a conversation with you. And today, we're here to talk about your new ebook, Have Tarot, Will Travel. And I've got it right here on my phone. And I have to say, this is a really, really interesting work. There's not a lot like it out there. You know, there are a bunch of tarot books out there, and most of them are really great. But this book is really a book for professionals. And I want to talk about what's in it. I want to talk about the history behind it. I want to talk about why you wrote it. So, first of all, give us the 2-second thumbnail about this book. What's in this book?
Well, Have Tarot, Will Travel is a comprehensive guide to reading at festivals as a tarot professional. And so what it does is it takes the person who maybe has never done a festival reading and might be interested in public readings, and it takes that person who's already at a proficiency or near professional proficiency and gets them from planning them to all the way to execution, follow through, and then the cycle of festivals in the year if that's what they tend to do. And I tried to leave nothing out, so it has a little bit of everything.
Absolutely. And so now let's talk for people who don't know about festival reading. Let's talk a little bit about what this is. It's in my background too. And I'm sure you've got some stories. I know I have some stories. But let's get into the time machine and go back to the beginning for your career. What was the very first festival you ever went to?
You know what? That would have to be all the way back when I was 18.
Okay.
And I worked at like at the time, they don't have them as much now, but they had the psychic fairs where it was like they would be like a ballroom in a hotel and there would be lots of different readers.
Sure.
And I did that when I was 18 and I was reading professionally with tarot. And it was a horrible experience.
Horrible experience. Okay, so let's start. Let's talk about psychic fairs. I used to run a psychic fair.
Did you really?
Yes, Christiana's Psychic and New Age Fair. And if you had read with us, it would not have been a horrible experience. Tell us what was horrible about it.
Well, I was completely unprepared. I had no idea what to expect. I was very young. And I was by far the youngest reader by a generation. And so a lot of people kind of walked by me, kind of discounting me because of my age. And so it wasn't because the festival itself was horrible, but it was because at my age and my lack of information, I was unable to navigate the challenges of the festival.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And, okay, so that was a psychic fair. Now, what would have been the next public venue that you worked in?
So flash forward to about 3 or 4 years ago, I read for my local music festival that's kind of in this small town or borough that I live in. And that's when I was moving to be full-time professional. Mm-hmm. And so for me, there's so much of an online presence with tarot readings that I felt maybe if I go low-tech and I go kind of old school and I beat the pavement with doing festival readings, that might be the key to my success. And it really was. So that's what I did. I did a festival. It was 5 hours. It was like 5-minute readings for $5, 5 for 5, so cheap. Mm-hmm. I must have read between 35 and 40 people that day. And it was, it was quite an experience. Definitely much better than when I was 18.
Now, let's talk about that. One thing I have not done a lot of is music festivals. interestingly. And I think a lot of it is when I'm in a music festival, I don't want to be working. I think that's a lot of it. But so set the stage for us. What kind of music? What genre?
Well, this particular music festival was just like local bands,
Okay.
but it was very family friendly. There was like an artist's alley, there were venues, and so I was placed, at some distance from the music.
Yeah.
So, people had beers, they were walking around, but it was great. Like, I love going to festivals, and I love an excuse to be there all day. So for me, to be able to read under some trees, to hang out, like, it's not heavy, it's a lot of fun. I have a great time, so just, if you like festivals in general, I think you should give it a shot,
Absolutely. So talk to me, I think there is this really wide gamut of the types of festivals. Places where you can be a vendor. And one of the things that I really like that you talked about in the book is, well, what's a good place for you at this time? And there can be a lot of deciding factors, from how much does it cost to be there? If it's going to cost you $250 to be there for a day, are you even going to be able to break even? And you also mentioned, though, that there might be some times where it's not about the money, but about the exposure. Can you give us an example of an event that you've worked where you didn't make a whole lot of money initially, but it was worth doing for bringing you fame, fortune, or connections, or networking, or whatever?
Absolutely. I would have to say a lot of my, sometimes I'll do charity festival events, and I'll do them at really cut rate or for tips. And especially in the beginning, as I was just hanging my shingle out there and letting people know about me, I have found that the referrals that I've gotten from the people that I read that night have definitely been worth their weight in gold. And, those people refer other people. So I would have to say that we need to look at money as a factor, of course, but sometimes it's not the only factor we should be looking into. So the first thing I would say is, when you're looking at a festival, determine why you want to be there. When I was doing those $5 5-minute readings, it really helps me gain a level of fluency with my tarot that I hadn't had before, even though I had been reading tarot for a very long time. It helped me become succinct, see things in a fluid manner, not, have to really rely on my intuition because I didn't have time to think about it. And to me, that's where intuition exists, is when I'm not thinking. It's that first flash of insight. So when you're putting yourself in this atmosphere where you have to do that, I find that it's very helpful for cultivating intuition and tarot fluency. So sometimes you're not going to make a lot of money, but you can do it for that. Or, with those kind of festivals, if I have a new technique, like a new card technique or something, I'll use them as my guinea pigs, for lack of a better word. Because I'm like, it's only $5, so if it doesn't work out, they can walk away, no harm, no foul. So there's a lot of reasons why one would use them.
That was brilliant. And I was thinking about this very thing in a different context just the other day. I do a lot of teaching for free. And part of what I'm doing when I'm doing free teaching is I'm piloting programs that will later become books or premium classes or something of that nature. And I think that, your point is very well made, that in that setting where you're doing back-to-back readings and it's out in the hot sun and there's a line and you have to go to the bathroom and you haven't eaten in 2 hours and that's what's going on and it's loud. And when you're in that setting and you're giving great readings nonetheless, you're a damn good reader. And the next day, when you're in your office, in your comfort zone, doing an hour-long reading, that client really benefits from what you just put yourself through,
I could not agree more. Absolutely.
That's, I never really put that into words or heard that put into words before, and I think it's brilliant. Now, one of the things you addressed in your book is that not every person is going to be in their comfort zone, even if they love tarot, even if they're a great reader, even if they are a professional reader or want to be a professional reader. Not every person's going to be in their comfort zone, being out there under a tent or under an umbrella as a vendor at a festival. You say some brilliant things in your book to those people. Would you speak to those people now? What should they consider?
Well, I think by and large, tarot readers tend to be introverted by nature. And so you see that in how, just as a field, what we choose to do or not do. But I believe that outside of your comfort zone, that's where growth lies and personal growth lies. So I always say, just take a bite. You might like it, but then at least you know you've tried. And a lot of times, especially for readers that are going professional, we have to check our own inner critic and our inner demons, and sometimes that's resistance. So if we find ourselves resisting something that could be very successful for us, then I think sometimes we need to do some internal work. Like, is this truly not a fit? Or maybe do I have some underlying beliefs around success or failure that might be getting in the way of what I need to be doing? For those of you, I'm kind of an ambivert, so I am an introvert in an extrovert's sheep's clothing. Like, I look like I am, but I'm not. So I would say, even though there's 10,000 people at that festival, you're still only reading one person at one time. And you're still only focusing on one person at one time. And I have found that when I really get into reading space, the noise, it quiets. It becomes almost like a bubble that's around you and the person that you're reading for. So we don't have to look at all 10,000 people. We're actually not on a stage. We're still doing one-to-one. And we've just shifted the context around us. So I would say give it a shot. And look and see where the resistance lies, and that might be the area where your growth is going to be.
Good point. Very good. So let's talk a little bit about all the different kinds of festivals. Okay, so we've got the psychic fairs, and I noticed that you mentioned in your book sort of the body, mind, spirit expo kinds of things. Your experience with those has not been so good?
No, I regularly do psychic expos, and they've been great. There's been some that haven't. I mean, it's a crapshoot.
Okay.
But I felt in the beginning, I intentionally did not reach out to the psychic expos until I felt like I was at a very high level of proficiency.
Okay.
Because the thing is you are in direct competition. I know people don't like to use that word, but it's the truth. You are competing for the same amount of people in the same space, and you're competing with people that have been in the field for many, many years. They have their intuition honed at a beautiful high level. They have their whole thing packed. And so if you go and you're uncomfortable, or your booth doesn't look like it's professional, then it will kind of be a blow to your own self-esteem. So I would say, those, definitely go for those, but give yourself a year or two of working regular festivals where you're the only reader to get your stuff down pat, to get the way that you work with clients down pat. Bless you.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I got that where I can edit that well. Okay. I was waiting for you to take a breath. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I messed up my throat chakra when I was engaging.
Oh.
Way too many people. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so we have the little psychic fairs that, the little ones that I used to run that you started at, that I don't think there are that many of them anymore, but there are store psychic fairs. Have you done those at all? Is that a thing for you?
I'm not really near any new age stores, so actually I haven't. In my area, I go about as far as up to like a 3 to 4 hour drive.
Okay.
It's about as far as I feel like I want to go at this point.
Sure.
At this point in my career.
Sure.
And usually what I find is that the festivals that I do are at like convention halls or expos or the Firehouse Hall, and it's run by maybe like a New Age ministry.
Sure.
Or someone that has kind of like a holistic social group, and then they've put stuff together. That seems to be the majority of my immediate area, just because there's not that many New Age stores anymore, not like there used to be.
Sure, that's true. That's true. Now, you mentioned the kind of fair where you might be the only reader, where you're not competing with other readers, where it's you, it's the hot dog vendor, it's the guy drawing your caricature, and there's so many of these opportunities. I've done Celtic festivals. How much fun is that?
Yeah.
I've done pagan festivals. Now, have you done pagan festivals at all?
I have, and they're a lot of fun.
Yes.
They are a lot of fun. I get the best questions ever in pagan festivals. Example. How can I please Loki? He is my patron god, and I want to please him. What do I need to do? I just love it. And pagan festivals are nice because they are the few places where you don't have to explain anything.
Right.
They're already there with you. We don't, and they're usually very down to earth. But the thing is a lot of them also read their own tarot.
Right.
So they may not want to sit down and have like a higher priced reading with you because they could just go home and bust their own deck out. That's what I have found as well. But they're a lot of fun. I've done a grocery store.
I've done a grocery store too. Tell me about your grocery store experience.
Well, it's one of the few like family-run grocery stores left in kind of our area. And twice a year they do like a little mini fest in the aisles of the grocery store as people are shopping. And so they reached out to me and I said, that sounds really cool. I'm going to come do it. And they put me kind of near the produce aisle. So I was like by the bananas and like then also the greeting cards. And it was great. Like people were like really friendly. It was amenable. It was great readings. I had to turn people down because it's like the store is shutting down. Like the lights are coming off. I can't read the tarot anymore. I'm sorry. Here's my card. So that's the thing is I feel like the more creative we can think about where we can set up shop, the more money we can make, the more successful we can be. And so a lot of people think, it's got to be the New Age festivals or even it's got to be the pagan festivals. But sometimes my best experiences have been from the places I wouldn't have even expected. So it could be like women's events at night or, car show, actually.
I've done car shows, yep.
I have made good money at a car show because a lot of the ladies who aren't interested in cars, well, why not get a reading?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, it's been about I want to be kind of like a welcome surprise. Right.
I have also done a lot of agricultural fairs.
You have?
I have. And, it's one of the few problems. Okay, if I have any criticism of your book at all, and I really don't, I think your book is great. But if I did, I have to say there is one problem that I have run into at a festival that you did not cover in your book. And is when they march the cows in front of your booth, and no one cleans up after the cows, what do you do?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That is hilarious. I have not yet had that experience, but I hope to soon. I
have to say, the great thing about the Aggie fairs is they tend to be fairly lengthy. It's like 6 days. So you set up, and that's what you do for 6 days. The people are friendly. And yeah, I mean, you're there for the animals, and there's cows, and there's pigs, and there's horses, and there's all kinds of animals. But there's also all kinds of arts and crafts, and music, and great food, and, the quilting exhibits, and the pickle exhibits, and all of that. And so it really is this piece of Americana. But that brings us, because I've done a lot of those kinds of things where I may not be the only reader, but there's not, that many readers, or sometimes I am the only reader. And, there can be different kinds of reactions. And I have a couple of questions for you. You address this in a few ways in your book, but I want to talk about it. Number one, what kind of reactions have you experienced that weren't pleasant, if any?
Well, I had one experience, and I think I talk about this in the book, is I was at kind of like a neighborhood crafty fest in a pretty liberal, like very liberal part of Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman walks by and she goes, "Oh, well, my religion doesn't allow me to have a reading." And you know what? I don't get upset, because if that's your belief system, that's your belief system. And then I said, well, I can actually do non-predictive spreads, which isn't against the Bible, but, if you're not comfortable, you're not comfortable. And then, she said a couple of things, and then I just had to be like, excuse me, I have a client right now, I have to read. And then she actually came back and got a reading about 3 hours later.
Nice.
So I've been very lucky that I haven't had too many negative experiences. Maybe if someone has had a few drinks, or people are not wanting to wait in a line. So sometimes it's more about people wanting to get to me ASAP, more than wanting to kind of adhere to the rules.
Yeah.
I've had people they'll prove it to me, slap down their money and be like, show me something, in that way. And so what I do is, I'm a Queen of Wands type, so I look at that as a challenge, and I'm like, oh, all right. And then usually they leave very quiet.
Right. Absolutely.
But there have been times where people have been very disrespectful, and I've kindly asked them to leave my table. So, but that's so rare. That's 1% of everybody, if that.
Sure. I would agree. I had one experience. It was a town fall celebration event, and they were very happy to have me. It was they hadn't reached out to me. I reached out to them, and we'll talk about the difference in just a moment. But I was fairly near set up to a local church, and so as my line started to form, the people working the booth from the church came out and started harassing the people in my line.
Oh my God!
Right. I have to say, I was very cool about it. The festival organizers saw it and kicked the church out. Now, so at noon, the church is packing up their stuff and leaving. Now, if that hadn't happened, I'm not sure what I would have done, how I would have handled it. But, those kinds of things can happen. And, I have to say, and I have not always followed this rule, but I really believe if you lose your temper, you lose. And that's a hard thing because, if you're out there in the hot sun or it's raining or, it's not comfortable. Festival work is not comfortable. And I've lost my temper at many, many, many festivals, and I regret it every single time I do. So that would be my advice, in a situation. Don't do as I did. Do not lose your temper.
Right. And the thing too to help people keep perspective as they're hearing kind of our war stories is oh my God, that's scary. I don't want to do that. But the thing is any job that you're working with John Q. Public, these kinds of things happen, whether you're like a waitress, whether you work at Target as a cashier. Like, you cannot escape all the wonder, glory, and mystery that is the average human. And so for me, anytime, I don't think what we're doing is it has its own challenges, but it's not so much more than any other kind of public interactive position. But for me, I'm my own boss. So I don't have to put up with it if I don't want to. And that to me is the integral difference. Because I've had those service jobs where you had someone be really terrible to you and you had to put up with it because you wanted to keep your job. That's done. Those days are over for me, girl. I know. And if they are, I will stand up and say, I don't think I can read for you right now. I don't think the energy is accurate. So, and then I stand up. And then I call the next person, like I kind of wave them over if they're in line. So I'm like utilizing kind of peer pressure tactics to kind of move that person out. And it's always worked. I've never had like an altercation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good.
Knock on wood. So far, so good.
So here's a situation I had that it stuck with me all of these years. And this was a situation where I was actually paid to work at a company festival. It was like a company's family fun day, which is a thing that can happen. So I'm there being paid by the company by the hour. I just have to get through as many people as I can. And a group, they come over in groups, they go to the cotton candy machine, they go to the water slide, whatever. So now they're over there with me. And this one woman is sort of very, this will be fun, and she sits down and her cards are like very clear, very direct. It's a very specific issue and it's not a pleasant issue. It's not a dire prediction or something like that. It's something she has been dealing with that needs to be addressed. So I address it. And she does one of these. And I give her the answer. I answer her questions. I move her along because that's what I'm paid to do. So she comes back and she hangs out like just, I need more time. I need more time. I need more time. I didn't think you were real. It's real. I have all these questions. I give her my card. Call me. You can have as much time as you want tomorrow. And she harassed me for the rest of the day. I didn't know how to deal with it. I have never known how to deal with it. How would you have dealt with that?
Well, first my question was the reading around boundaries issues of some sort?
Oh my gosh. It's a long time ago, but
like, well, I've seen issues around boundaries. You know what I do, and I have this in the book, is one of like my best tips, is I have a special little stamp that I've had made where it's a percentage off of a reading, and I put them on only the business cards that are right next to me. So one of my goals at the shorter festivals, my goal usually isn't to make money at the festival. My goal is to convert 5-minute clients into our clients. Right. And so what I do is I'm like, okay, well, this is, thank you so much. Here's my card. I have a special like coupon on the back just for you. If you book within a certain time frame, I'd love to see you. And so when I do get kind of like clients or festival goers that are in need so much, that's usually enough. I haven't had anyone stay beyond that when I'm like, you know what, this issue is so important. I absolutely cannot give it only 5 minutes.
Right.
And you deserve more time. And here's a card with a coupon. I'd love to see you. Please schedule with me at another time. And that's usually, I haven't had anyone go around, but usually that's enough.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So now let's talk about, there's clearly two things that happen here. One is that once you get a name for yourself, different places will reach out to you, asking you if you want to come and be there, sometimes even for free or in exchange for co-promotion, or if you want to buy a booth to be there, or in some cases, if they can pay you to be there. Those are my favorites.
Yeah.
Other times we look for places to be and reach out to them. What kinds of advice, what has your experience been with those two different ways of becoming a vendor, and what kinds of advice do you have for people?
Well, the book really assumes that most people are starting out with festival readings, so I don't really go too much into like where people reach out to you. To me, I kind of categorize those as not as much festival readings, but more like event readings.
Right, gotcha.
In my own mind.
Gotcha.
And that's a whole different ballgame. With those, there's a written up contract that I send them. We have an agreement of what we're going to do or not going to do. And so I'm much more careful in a different way because it's more of like a business partnership rather than me paying for a table.
Right.
What I have found is that with those kinds of events, I usually have less. I don't know about you, but I've noticed I have less kind of conversion into the full-time readings. I don't know if that's been the case.
Well, so often it depends. It depends. In some cases with those kinds of events, you're not even allowed to give out your business card.
Yes.
So there's zero conversion. Although, that's actually not true. I have had people remember my name and look me up, so that is not entirely true. But yeah, and I think you're right that if we're talking about a booth that you're going to pay for, or a block party, an arts festival, a street fair. Those are my favorite. Street fairs are so awesome. Any of those kinds of things, ideally what you're looking for is that conversion, that these people are actually going to become clients.
Oh, I would like to add there is usually different in type of clients too, because the kind of client that plunks down money, even if it's $5, by and large are different than the clients where if they're coming in for like an employee event and everything's free.
Right, that is so true.
And they don't have to put any money on the barrelhead for that reading.
Right.
So I have found like people who, even if it's $5, $1, if they're putting something in the energy exchange, I find them by and large to be a little more open to the experience. Sure. I mean, I'm not saying like everyone, but I've noticed that those who sit down for free or, they're in their own employer function or something, you kind of get more of the challenging type because they have nothing to lose. So with those events, those types of events, I definitely ask the kind of money that would make it worth it for me to deal with those specific challenges.
Right. Exactly. And everybody's there for those kinds of events, so it's all good. So one of the things you talk about that I'd like to talk about here is because a lot of times festival organizers are used to they're used to taking applications from vendors who sell hot dogs or T-shirts or little stuffed animals. The application from the tarot reader is sometimes met with a certain amount of what have you dealt with there, and how have you dealt with it?
Well, it's funny, as you're talking about that, I'm thinking about 3 festivals that I applied to for just this fall that I was denied because I wasn't a fit. And so I feel like what I tend to do is I do provide some pushback, like, is it because I'm a reader? If so, I'd be happy to give you a mini reading so you can see how I operate, because there is a lot of stigma and bias against us. I had a festival goer go, well, we had a reader 15 years ago, and it was a terrible experience, so we have never had anybody. Well, if that person was a jewelry person, does that mean then that you would never book any more jewelry people ever before? So I feel like that's one of the challenges, is really pushing back. But after I initially push back, if they're still resistant, then I let it go. There's way too many festivals. There are way too many people that would love to have you to really waste too much time. But I do try to provide some pushback, because I feel like education of who we are and what we're about is one of my personal missions. So I don't give it too much thought, but I have seen other, like, newer readers really get discouraged if they've had several no's, and then they stop. And so I would say, don't let that get to you. You know, you've got to knock on a lot of doors before you find the ones that open to you. And then the great thing is, the ones that do open to you, you go in year after year, you're like a star attraction. People are coming to the festival just to see you. And that's an amazing feeling. Like, what? You came just to see me? Like, that's so cool. So I feel like if we can just not attach to the negative experiences and keep moving forward, then I think that's where we're going to be successful.
You know, you said so much there that is so significant. And let's go back to those newer people, because I think in a lot of ways, the book that you wrote has a very sort of sweet demographic amongst brand new professional readers, or people who are getting ready to go professional. And I think you said a mouthful when you said that some people become very discouraged early on. And, you know, arguably, we lose a lot of talent from the pool when this happens. And in a way, I sometimes blame this sort of what I see as an erroneous interpretation of New Age thought, which is, well, if there's resistance here, then the universe must not want me to do it, you know? And I think nothing could be further from the truth. You know, things worth doing are hard to do sometimes. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And so, yeah, I think that your point to not be discouraged, and your point to not fight to be where you're not wanted, go where you're wanted, and there's going to be plenty of places where you are wanted. So, you know, you mentioned going back to your grocery store gig, which is great. I've never been inside a grocery store. I was outside of a grocery store, which was kind of fun. I don't know. But, you know, when you talk about reading between the bananas and the greeting cards, that's like a joke in my family. I used to read a flea market. And a lot of what you said in your book actually reminded me of my flea market days, you know, which was the very beginning of my career. And in a way, a flea market is very much like a festival. And I was set up between military surplus, lingerie, and country western line dancing. And that's what surrounded me in this setting. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that, you know, you might end up being set up next to any number of kinds of things. What's the best thing you've ever been set up next to? What's the worst thing you've ever been set up next to? What will you not be set up next to? How does that all work for you?
Oh, boy. Well, I would have to say the worst things that I was set up to was that I was kind of put in the kiddie area of the festivals. So I was kind of near the area that had, like, the face painter and the balloon animal and the magic guy. Like, I think in the coordinator's mind it made sense when it couldn't be more further for the truth, because I don't read for children below 16 in a festival setting, even with parents. That's my personal preference. But you have, you know, I'd have kids, like, because kids are very attracted to the cards, you know, it looks like a game. So they'll beeline right for the table, or they'll stand there kind of, their mouth kind of half open, like watching me do a reading. So I've had to be very clear with the coordinators that I shouldn't be near music, like loud music, because I've also lost my voice trying to read with a band not too far from me in a small kind of expo space. Not near loud music and not really near the kids. Like, I'd rather be nestled in maybe with some vendors or some artists, like somewhere kind of quiet. So that's been a challenge. I can't think of like any one specific, like, oh my God, it was terrible to be next to that person. Just usually as a whole. Very good people, very good places to be next to. Like I said, it'd just be like artists or people that have their own kind of people coming through. Like, I want to be at the place where there's like maximum flow, but not too much noise. And I tend to do very well with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I like to be near the kiddie place.
Do you really?
I do. As long as there's not like a loud clanking ride. I don't want to be right next to the loud clanking ride. But the face painter, the balloon animal, all of that, I work really well with, because while the kid's getting their face painted, I'll do mommy. But I will do the little kids. With mommy right there, I will sit and read the palm of the 5-year-old and, talk about their dance lessons or whatever. And so I don't mind doing that. So, clearly a lot of it is up to the individual, what your style is, what works for you. Now, you had also mentioned in your book bringing other readers, when the volume is going to be such that you bring other readers. How has that worked for you?
It's worked pretty well, and I still toy with it. Like, right now I'm at the point I'm thinking of like super high volume festivals, like in the city of Philadelphia, where you're seeing 10,000 people. And I've been thinking like maybe I could get 3 or 4 readers, and have us all together. It's worked very well as long as you and the other reader are really clear on your expectations with one another. I'm very much like if I have a line, I'm very much a time minder, because to me, money is time is money, and I've paid for that time generally. But then if you're with another reader who's more kind of like laissez-faire or loosey-goosey, I don't mind that, but the clients will see that, and then you may have like friction from that. If they go, well, why did she give her extra time, and then you finished me like on the dot, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I would say that as long as everyone's clear on what the expectations are as like a cultural unit, I think they can work really great, because then you have somebody like, if you got to run to the restroom, they're there. You get usually more people through if it's a busy festival. Sure. I like it.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, let's see. What about, I've put myself in the position sometimes of actually volunteering at sort of festival-like experiences. One of my favorites is Relay for Life. I absolutely love volunteering at Relay for Life. And I get a little flack at different places with people worried that I'm reading for cancer survivors. I'm reading for people whose family members have cancer. What about the predictive nature of it and all of that? But for the most part, it's been incredibly well received. Have you done anything of that nature?
I'm a big animal person, so I have done stuff for like animal nonprofits. Like, I've done animal readings for like animal-based events. I've also done fundraisers for domestic violence fundraisers. I love it. Like, I love giving back when I can, and I like. And it's a cool way to do that, like you're really adding value for people, and it tends to be usually really well received.
Absolutely. Now, here's just going back to something you said very early on, and it's something that you specifically said in your book, and it stuck with me when I read it in the book, and it has to do with the inner critic. that as people are considering getting involved in this kind of work, doing the arts and crafts fair, doing the festival circuit, whatever, that their inner critic may stop them. Now, I don't seem to have one of those. So, what would one's inner critics say that would keep one from venturing into this?
Well, I think the biggest one is you're not good enough.
Interesting.
You're not a good enough reader, or you're not going to be able to handle the back and back nature of the reading, or maybe you can't handle people, you're not social enough, you're not cute enough, you're not young enough, you're not thin enough, you're not this enough. I feel like for a lot of people, especially tarot readers, we have a rich internal life, I think, as a rule. And for some of us, myself included, there is an inner critic that we really have to kind of like, that's where the resistance is like, wow, I'm not like, a size 2 and I'm not like cute. Maybe people won't want a reading from me, or maybe they'll think I'm a joke, or maybe they'll think I'm a terrible reader. And I feel like those are all the things that are not even based in reality. It's all society, our internalized messages that came from outside that get in the way of us moving forward. So I did want to speak to that in the very beginning of my ebook, because I thought that was so important.
Interesting.
So I do have an inner critic, but I tend to ignore her often. Like, shut up. We're doing this, all right? I tend to, I feel personally, I felt like I wanted to talk to that, because there are some festivals, and especially the beginning, I'm very much a lone wolf person. I don't have like a big gaggle of people in the beginning to help ease me into a festival situation. So I've always gone alone. And there were times where I was kind of shaking on the inside. I was so nervous. I was so scared. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how this was going to go. And every time I pushed that, I've just become more successful. And I've never regretted pushing that. But sometimes it's hard, especially if you don't have a cheerleader in your corner. So I just want to say, those of you that are listening to this, I am your cheerleader. If you need to email me and be like, Jenna, I don't know if I can do this, I will be like, you can do this. Let's go. Let's make it happen. Because it is hard, and it's very real, and it stops us.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I really like in the book is that you talk about a lot of the practical stuff. And, I think another thing that happens when people get really excited about doing something like this, they forget about things like the weather, bathrooms, the real basic stuff. And there's, I have so many stories about tables and chairs and easy-ups in my history. And, one of the things I would say is, if you do a festival and you look around and you see the other vendors, you will see the vendors who've been doing it for 1,000,000 years, and they have secrets. One of my favorite secrets involves hula hoops and easy-ups. How to keep, when it rains, how to keep the rain from pooling in your easy-up. It involves hula hoops, Wow,
I didn't know that one. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, now you're a parasol girl. I've seen pictures of you under a parasol, yeah?
Yeah, I have a really cute rust-colored, it looks like a kind of like a Chinese paper lantern. So it's not an easy up. I don't get as much, usually I don't get as much shade, but I feel like it looks so different that I get a lot of visibility, because it pops. It's just very, very different. And I think as a tarot reader, we have a lot more license in kind of being a little more fabric-y, a little more gypsy-like. We don't have to look professional. We have to look interesting and comfortable.
Right.
That's to me, when people are like, wow, that looks like a real, like a place I want to go hunker down and talk about myself. That's where I want to go.
Right.
So yeah, I do parasols. Though easy ups a lot of readers use them, and I think they work. But tricks of the trade. A lot of times, like building for height is another trick of the trade. Like people are attracted to height, so you see a lot of readers will have like room dividers because we're kind of low. We're like on a table. You have flat cards, and so things like room dividers and those like. I guess that's what they're called, room dividers. Anything that's like creating height. I've seen people use trellis and then like festoon the trellis with like beautiful fabrics or scarves and stuff, and that's a cool way to do it too.
Sure, absolutely. And one thing I've noticed that I just have to say, things that are easier now than they used to be, signage. It used to be that signs were so hard. Now you can go to Staples and get beautiful banners for not very much money at all comparatively. And I have to say, in the years, I don't do a lot of the festivals anymore, but in the years that I was doing it, signage was one of my biggest issues. And now I would say not that big a deal.
No, it's not. It's definitely easy, though it is an investment. And I think in the beginning, people have a hard time. When I started festivaling, in this recent incarnation, my first investment was a sign, and I got it for like $90. And it was one of those, and I still have it. It's like a metal A-frame that's like, maybe 3 feet tall. So it has a sign on either side, and I can carry it, but it's metal, so the wind will never blow it away. You can put it in grass. You can put it on a concrete. So, but yeah, going back to that original thing, I really intentionally wanted to make the ebook extremely like practical. Like, think of these things. You're not going to think of them, because I know I didn't.
Right.
I'm a Gemini. I start to get kind of overwhelmed with lots of details. That's why I created a pack list. Here you go. And here are the things that you could print out and start checking off as you're going through it. And then if you don't know, you don't have to know. The book is doing that for you. All you have to do is check off the list, and you're going to be fine. Because, the festival is a chaotic system. Like, you don't know what to expect. So as much as we can kind of get as organized as possible, the better it's going to be, I think. And it has been for me.
One of the things I love about any kind of a festival environment is to think about how, anthropologically, this is something that people have been doing arguably since the dawn of time. That people have been gathering together at certain seasons to trade and to entertain and to tell stories and to celebrate. And, go back 500 years, go back 1,000 years, go back 5,000 years. And this is something that people do. And I love to think, tarot hasn't been around for that long. But the idea of the seer, the fortune teller, the diviner, whatever, we've been around also since the dawn of time. And I think there is something that is so organic about getting out from behind the computer and getting out in that festival setting as we have been doing forever. And I get that it's not for everyone. But what I like about your book is that it really encourages people to try. See if it's for you. Stretch a little. So how can people get a copy of the book?
Well, it's available. It's only available Kindle for right now, though I may be expanding its offerings a little later on. But you don't have to have Kindle to read it. You can read it on your phone.
As I am right now.
You can read it on your computer. With the Kindle's cloud service, anyone without a Kindle can read it as well. And so go to Amazon. It's like $8. I don't remember how much it is. Isn't that bad? It's like $8.99. The other thing is, the book was really created with chapters that take you from just kind of like, why would I want to do something like this? And there's no judgment. And it goes from that to all the way at the very end as you're thinking about the festival experience you just had and what worked and what didn't work. And every chapter has guiding questions. So my intent and hope was that as you're going through the book, that you're answering these questions for yourself. So by the time you're done with the book, you have your own little handy how-to manual that you've really made for yourself for you. Because I can only give a guidance. We're all very different. Like you read for younger kids. I don't. Like all of us. So it's a framework and it's a guide, but it's definitely not like this is the only way to do it. It was just really to help people kind of start building the scaffolding of which they're going to create their own meaning for their success. So, I wish I had this.
Well, that's exactly the thing. And in fact, the wonderful Teresa Reed writes the introduction to this. And that's what she says, too. Those of us who have been out there for a while, most of us have been doing these. We've been doing the arts fairs, the craft fairs, the music fairs, whatever. And we learned the hard way. All the people coming up now, you guys don't have to learn the hard way. Get the book.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually remembered, we were talking in the beginning, like what festivals did I start with? So I did that New Age Expo. But, the second festival I did was a Rainbow Gathering. I was like 19.
Now, at Rainbow, I also have Rainbow in my history. At Rainbow, of course, you couldn't use green energy in the Trader's Zone.
That's right.
So what kind of things did you acquire?
Oh, I got a wonderful assortment of things. I got beautiful, gems. I got beautiful, carved wood pieces. I got beautiful scarves. I got patchouli. I got hugs. I got massages. I got flowers. I got, a snack. I got I got something to drink. And that was a lot of fun. So, so it doesn't always have to be for money. It can always be for barter too. And especially when you're with people on that vibes. So that was a really cool experience.
Wow. Which gathering was this?
This is the Rainbow Gathering in Southern California in the Sonoran Desert near the Chocolate Mountains. I used to live in Southern California, and they had a gathering. I don't know if they still have it there now, but it was about 2 hours south of me, in the Imperial Valley County area. So it's past the Salton Sea. It was in the middle of nowhere, as they usually are. And I just love it. You drive in, and they're like, "Welcome home," and you're like.
Yeah, I also have tarot at Rainbow in my background, but not myself as a reader. I had my cards with me at that point, but I wasn't really reading. But I had at 2 different gatherings. I had 2 different people read for me, and neither of them knew what they were doing. And I appreciated their energy and gave them whatever it was I was trading or whatever, but walked away thinking, oh my, there's got to be more to it than this. And it's really that experience that caused me to buy a book and actually study.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Talking about this exchange of energy brings something else in mind. So if somebody is wanting to do a festival and they're so nervous, what they can do is have a party at your house. And invite 10 of your closest friends and family or neighbors and say, I'm practicing doing readings, and try to kind of recreate that idea of doing back to back to back and ask them for feedback. Another thing to do that I've done, as hard as it is, I know, to hear yourself recorded, record you doing the sessions. So then you can listen over them again and go, I could have interpreted it this way, or maybe I should have said it that way, as ways to kind of prepare for the experience of a festival. I'm very much a trial by fire girl. I've never been let's dip my toe in the water first. I'm I leap and then look, which has worked. And sometimes, most of the time it's worked. But everyone doesn't have to be that way. You can definitely come up with ways to get you to a level of comfort before you kind of go out into the public sphere. So that's another idea as well.
Nice, nice, very good. So anything else that you want to share today?
Oh my God, has it been an hour? I can't believe it. I could talk about festivals all day long. The ebook was not, it wasn't created in a vacuum. It comes on the heels of a lot of history, like yours, Christiana, and Teresa Reed's, and it's a link in a chain. And I've created a link, and those of you that want to do festivaling, you're the next link in the chain. We're all connected in this together, and we're all in this together. And honestly, if you purchase the book and you want to talk to me about this, Facebook friend me or email me. Literally, I want to be a help. This is really about my goal, my master plan is that we're everywhere and we're as normal for people as massage therapy is now. Massage therapy wasn't like this in the 70s. Everyone was like, oh, massage, huh? Now everyone goes and gets massage. My mission is that our society sees getting a wonderful, awesome tarot reading in the same way that they now see massage. So if I'm helping other tarot readers get out there and be part of that front guard, then I feel like I have, I'm meeting my own mission of where I want to see us as a field go. So please, if you buy the book, I'll help you. Email me, talk to me, let me know how it goes. I'm here. And that's it.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. Well, that is wonderful, Jenna Matlin. As always, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you again on Christiana's Psychic Cafe.
Thanks for having me.